Hey man, I'm looking to buy a brand new diver's watch. Hey, I'll help you with that. First, tell me what's your most important criterion in a dive watch. Well, it is a dive watch, so I need at least 200 meters of water resistance. So you do plan on diving with this watch, right? Of course. I'm glad to see a fellow diver. My passion is spearfishing. You've got to be kidding me. It is my favorite sport. You know what? I think I have just the right watch for you. The Rolex Submariner. Did I mention that I'm unemployed and I'm crawling in debt? Shh, say no more. Alright guys, so as always, we'll kick off the video by looking at the measurements of the watch. Now, as you can probably tell, pretty much every single measurement is the exact same as the original Rolex Sub. So this goes for the 40 millimeter diameter, the 48 lug-to-lug length, as well as the 20 millimeter lug width. The one measurement that will differ is the case thickness. As you can see here, you do get an exhibition window on this Invicta, which always adds a little bit of depth, if you will, to the watch. So this is the only thing that's actually different from the Rolex Sub, but everything else is the same. So you can see it here on my 6¼ inch wrist. So 48 millimeters lug to lug is usually the maximum I'll go because I have a small wrist, but I think this is the perfect size for a dive watch. As you can see, it's not too big. Of course, I may be a bit biased because I have such small wrists, because I know a lot of you guys like bigger dive watches, but for me, this is the ideal size for a dive watch. Now, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room right away. This is a Rolex Sub copycat. I cannot call it an homage because it's pretty much a one-to-one replica of the Rolex Submariner, but I cannot really call it a replica either because there's no misleading logos or anything like that. Invicta is really straight to the point. They show you that this is not a Rolex. As you can see here, you get a pretty big Invicta logo here, a huge Invicta font right here. Even the clasp, I think you get also the Invicta logo. So this is not misleading by any means, which is why I think this is not a replica per se, because as soon as someone gets up close and personal with it, they will see this is not a Rolex within a second of seeing these logos. Apart from that, everything is pretty much the same as the Rolex Sub. As far as styling goes, it's a one-to-one replica, as I said earlier. So you get the Cyclops lens, as well as the Mercedes set of hands. The Indices is the same combo, which is circles, rectangles, and triangles here at the 12 o'clock. The bezel is literally almost the same. Once again, this only goes for styling because, of course, it won't be as crisp as the original, but you get the same font, you get the same edge. Even the first 15 minutes are the same gradation. So very, very similar to the Rolex Sub. One small distinguishing feature is the second hand here. As you can see, you once again get Invicta's logo, so a bit different than the original Rolex. Even the script down here, you can see, is pretty much the same. Of course, it doesn't say Submariner, nor does it say Superlative Chronometer officially certified, because it is neither of those things. Instead, it says automatic professional 200 meters water resistant. which in my opinion is a whole lot of words to say not a lot of things. So pretty clear attempt to replicate the Submariner's font here. Now, what's good about this watch? The first thing I want to talk about is the dial. You get a pretty cool sunburst finish. As you can see, I think you can pick it up on the camera. It's goes from a very dark blue, but when it's under direct lighting, it will go to a purplish hue. So very clean looking purple shade. So I love this dial. It's very beautiful, particularly when it's under the sun, for example. So great dial. Now there will be a few misalignments here and there between the bezel and the indices, but I must say for the price of this watch, this is around $80. It is one of the best, if you will, alignments to quality, alignments to price ratio, if I can say it like that, because I think this is better aligned than, let's say, your Seiko SKX, or even compared to my Orient Mako 2. I think this has the best alignment between the indices and the bezel, so pretty good for such a cheap watch. Now, another great thing about this watch, and in my opinion the best selling point of the Invicta 8928, is the Seiko Instruments NH35A movement. So this is, trying to focus here, this is basically a rebranded version of Seiko's 4R35 movement, which is amazing in itself. As you can see here, Invicta painted the rotor in a yellow color, as well as put once again their logo here. So pretty neat looking. You can see it through the exhibition case back. So if you're not too familiar with this movement, it is a 24 joules automatic caliber that does hand wind and hack. So these are two awesome features for such a cheap watch. They are highly sought after features, and usually you will have to pay a premium price to get those. So as I said, best selling point in my opinion of the 8928 is this amazing caliber. The rest of the specs are pretty basic. So you have 41 hours of power reserve. The frequency is quite low. It's 21,600 BPH, which explains the kind of jerky motion of the second hand, if you will. And this gets the usual Seiko package. So you have their die-shock system, the magic lever, bi-directional rotating rotor. So all in all, it's a very reliable movement that is quite accurate. The accuracy is about the same as your Seiko 7S26, which is a much more ubiquitous movement. So in my experience, it will gain or lose, let's say, about 10 seconds per day. So for this price point, excellent accuracy and reliability. It will last upwards of a decade without a problem, without needing a single service. Now, the last thing I want to say about this exhibition window is that it is pretty rare to see such an exhibition window on a dive watch, because it adds another possible entry point for water. So this means you need more seals, you need better quality control to make sure there's no leakage here. So I'm pretty happy to see it on this Invicta. It's, as I said, pretty rare to see exhibition case backs on dive watches. Of course, it is mineral crystal, which is also the material used for the crystal on top of the dial. In my experience, it is very scratch resistant. As you can see here, it's pretty flawless, but I must say that this is a watch that I'll wear maybe once or twice a week, and I'm usually pretty careful with it. So the only part that might show a bit of wear and tear is the clasp here. As you can see, there are a few desk diving watches by rubbing it on the desk, but in general, I feel like it is a pretty good crystal, pretty sturdy watch as a whole. So that's a big plus for this Invicta. Now, when I first got my hands on this watch, I was pleasantly surprised by the bezel. Of course, there is a little bit of play here and there, as you can see, but I think the mechanism, it is a 120 click mechanism, unidirectional rotating. It is a pretty damn good mechanism. It is very crisp. Just a good experience as a whole. It feels good when you're turning it, so fun to play around with it, etc. And as I said, it's pretty much the exact same styling as the Rolex Sub, but the mechanism itself, I think, is very good for this price point once again. Now, the 200 meters water resistance make this watch a proper dive watch. I haven't tested this out for myself because I don't dive at all. As I said, a bit of desk diving is all I do. I've taken it for a couple swim here and there in a swimming pool, but nothing major. So still, it's pretty nice to know that you have this type of water resistance. I know of plenty of people online that do dive with these. Now, one disappointment of this watch I want to talk about is the lume. As you can see here on my lume shot, this isn't the brightest lume at all, and it's not that durable either. It will start to fade away within an hour, maybe 2 hours if you've got a lot of sun, but definitely one of the worst lume I've ever had on a dive watch. But of course, when you only pay $80 for a dive watch, you've got to make some concessions. The lume is one of them. Of course, it would have been nice if Invicta could have put their hands on Seiko's Lume Bright or some similar application, because these are extremely more bright and more durable. So it would have been nice to have that kind of quality for the Invicta's lume. But sadly, you've got to give some, got to take some, and this is something that is a bit lacking on the Invicta. Another downside, if you will, of buying this watch is the bracelet. This is one of the cheapest bracelet I've ever had. So it is, of course, hollow and links. Every link is also hollow, so it feels just extremely light. It is pretty rattly too. I don't know if you can hear it, but this is the type of watch that will make kind of a rattle when you shake it. So the bracelet itself is pretty bad. Here the clasp is very thin. So if you can change it, please do. I stuck with the original one because this exact matching color is kind of hard to find for this watch. So I just stuck with it. But by all means, if you can find a custom bracelet, please do. It will increase this watch's quality tenfold. So that's pretty much it. I won't linger around too long to talk about this watch because it's the exact same watch as the Invicta 8926, and this one has been reviewed hundreds of times around the internet. So I encourage you to go see one of these reviews, but I just wanted to give a quick take on what my experience has been with this watch. So thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video.